Karen gave me the thumbs up, so we will resume. We have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes from our previous meeting. Questions on those? All in favor of approval signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The minutes are approved. E is action on vouchers.
I'll move to approve general checking account vouchers totaling $382,675.68 as presented.
I'll second that. Thank you. That was John's motion, seconded by Dave, to approve our checking account vouchers. Questions from anyone? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Public comment would be appropriate if anyone had signed up and I neglected to check the sheet. Rich, would you look quickly, please? We have no one signed up, so we will roll on. Which brings me back to Rich, because superintendent update would be Red Hawk highlights.
Yeah, with this being the second board meeting of the month, we will hear from our principals and directors, mainly focusing on all the great things that have been happening over the last few weeks to get ready for the start of the school year.
All right. I noticed you're going to take another cookie, Mr. Donovan, but you had an opportunity to.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We'll talk later. All right. In the 4K, everyone else heard it. In the 4K3 world, we're focusing our second year of implementation for our Wonders curriculum. You might be wondering what that is, and that is, thank you, our literacy curriculum. So this is our second year of implementation, so just continuing that professional development. We also, as schools, each and every one of our 7 schools, working on our theory of action plan. Wondering what that is. It used to be our scorecard, which is directly tied to our mission, our vision, and then of course the portrait of a Red Hawk. So we did some work on that those green days. We also enjoyed staff wellness, a couple hours. Mr. Dukendorf and his team put together, and I heard some positive feedback from our staff at Milton. And I'm sorry if you're going to talk about it, Chris, but I'll just, but no, there was some positive feedback, and I think that's important for you to know, because some of the sessions were geared towards some of the changes that we have made with insurance and such, and staff appreciated that time. And then, of course, lastly, thank you, Mr. Donovan, for changing our open house for the 4K3 world to this evening. So Mrs. Stuckey, Mrs. Strangles, and myself had just come from open house, and it was sure great to see the smiling students who are excited to come back and the parents who are excited to send them back. So it was nice to see them this evening.
Good evening. For Northside, a couple of updates. First, our leadership team had gotten together earlier this August. So I took take a look at that 3-year school profile that we had composed, where you disaggregated our school data by student groups. We're looking at attendance, discipline, and achievement. Through that collaboration, we kind of developed some of our theory of action steps or goals for the school year. So we really want to zero in on academic and content-specific vocabulary, like on the academic side of the house, and then really working together through our hot time lessons, second step, and partnering with families on improving our Northsiders' emotional regulation skills. Both of those things were kind of lower marks for us in last year, something that we wanted to improve upon. The professional learning front during these August Green Days, in addition to preparing for students or staff, is learning best practices. We hosted our 3rd core course with Responsive Classroom in August, where 25 of our educators learned all about that framework and series of strategies that really inspires to help kids reach their fullest potential and create safe and joyful learning communities. In addition to that, just last week, our very own Mr. Nelson, who happens to be a 5th grade ELA teacher, led professional learning for our teachers, all about writing in our new resource wit and wisdom for our 4-H ELA teaching staff. Really great feedback from the team. Is really helpful for them to see how that resource is vertically aligned, as well as some of the scaffolds and mnemonics that are incorporated in it, so they can draw upon that to best serve their writers. And then lastly, and probably most fun, just today, our Building Sunshine group got to acknowledge and arrange for a really surprise retirement gathering for Mrs. Carol Cox. Those of you who don't know her, she is an institution and legend here in Milton. Her work ethic is unrivaled, all while being an octogenarian and great-grandmother. So 30 years of service in the district, all of them at Northside since it opened. So it was really neat to be able to surprise that with her and celebrate all the teaching staff today.
right, good evening. Update from the middle school. Over the summer, this last month, Principal Serwinski and I hosted 7th grade families for meetings with principals. We had 4 different time slots available to families to hear what to expect coming into 7th grade. We hosted coffee with the principals in August. September, we're going to do lunch with the principals. We had 2 different nighttime activities in our building. One was supply drop-off night. We had some feedback after open house last year that it was not enough time for just 1 hour, and so we felt we would alleviate the need to drop off supplies in lockers during open house by having a separate night for simply supplies to be dropped off, and then we had open house the next night. So we got some pretty good feedback that it really helped alleviate some of those stresses. Our ELA staff went through wit and wisdom training over at Northside on learning to write and writing to learn. We trained our paraprofessionals in restorative practices. We created our theory of action. Weston Kieschnick provided district professional development, and I know that our folks over at the middle school had a lot of great things to say. It was really informative and energizing. We had our avid family picnic, and then lastly, we just want to thank our staff for the dedication to ready for kids this year.
All right, at the high school, obviously August is a very busy time of the year. And it's probably one of the busiest times. Staff during the green days, the staff days, a lot of different versions of professional development. For example, we hosted CISA 2, who came and worked with our professional learning communities on co-plan, co-serve, which is a different way to look at how we serve our students with special education within the regular classroom. So we, Carrie Huber organized it. Work with that. Restorative classroom and classroom led several sessions working with our staff on what the restorative practices look like at the high school level. We had members of that attended Summer Institute for AVID. We had staff that provided worker strategies, engagement strategies, and looking at how we can better use our flex period that happened this past week. Our learning leadership team, the building leadership team, worked with Weston after the full district presentation. The middle school and high school leadership team are going to work with Weston on building engagement. We'll see some of those things we talked about with Hello Work Our Way to our theories of action. I led a group with on Fund 21, so every activity advisor who oversees different accounts. We talked about money handling practices. We talked about the procedures and practices. It's a very good reminder for the many different Fund 21 accounts that we do have and all of our advisors who run those. We had Link Group, which met just this last week, got working with a new freshman in. Obviously our open house, several different times, both during open house and during Link Group, we had over 30 different groups at an activities fair showing students what is available to them. That will still continue to run. We'll actually run that with some of our new students this next week as well. And then finally, working with our new staff, as we have a large number of new staff at the high school, a new program that we're working with, the administration is working with, is making MHS, and how we work with our new staff, which will learn about the many parts of MHS and how to become part of our culture, but also giving them this, not all, of course, we
Great. As all the principals spoke, I say ditto because it really fell under teaching and learning. So I think something to really highlight is building our own within our own school district. So all of the staff members who led PD, kudos to them because they really put themselves out there for leadership opportunities. And so I can speak to the coaches, our teaching and learning coaches. They led the new teacher staff. Welcome to our district, and they did a phenomenal job. But when I was able to visit all the other buildings and seeing the AVID site leaders being able to provide the wicker strategies within across their entire building, it was phenomenal. And seeing somebody lead PLC work today, the K3 really worked. One of the coaches delivered the PLC work that's continuing with their essential standards work. So I think there's so much great things happening within our district, and just continually leaning on all of the talent, the gifts and talents that we have within our staff. So kudos to all of them who led the PD.
Student services had a bit of a unique opportunity for our sites and our social workers and our school counselors. So we had an opportunity to go off-site on one of our green days and do some multi-district training to kind of do a deeper dive in the area of being a trauma-sensitive educator in a trauma-sensitive school. So that was wonderful. We all went to Elkhorn together as a group. We had that training in trauma, and then we also had a training from a county social worker who did kind of an analysis of absenteeism and chronic truancy, and then some of the tiered supports that we can put in place at the district to kind of help support the absenteeism and just why students are gone from school, because the lens has kind of shifted from a more punitive approach to what's really happened post-pandemic and how can we start to engage in the conversation and provide some more support at the tiered level. So super excited about that opportunity for our folks, because they are the ones at the table problem solving and trying to reach out and support families with our building leadership. So that was wonderful. And then from a special ed lens, something that we are going to keep our eye on that you're going to hear more about is next year we are in our self-assessment, our procedural compliance self-assessment year. It happens every 5 years, and so part of our main focus in the special ed world that I got the staff kind of prepared for during the professional development days was to go over the compliance checklist and to make sure that we are in compliance for our IEPs and our evaluations and for delivering services. So more to come on that.
I'm going to follow up on what Mrs. Kramer said earlier. On August 22nd, Stephen Wellness, the HR team and the administrative team hosted two one-hour wellness sessions for our staff. Some of the wellness options included open swim at the high school, yoga in the field house, presentation on the benefits of the school employee wellness clinic, 403B presentation by WA member benefits, the district's 403B provider, meal planning prep, our Dean Living Healthy Rewards, wellness hike with our own Sarah Suki. And in addition to these options, the district hosted insurance benefit vendors in our high school gymnasium as well. From 9 to 3, staff were able to come and get their questions answered, whether it was regarding the tiered benefits that had become effective for July 1st, or any other questions they had about any of their insurance benefits. So it was a really good day and well worth the time.
In addition to the things that were highlighted, there are two things that I want to add. One is I want to recognize our volunteers that helped with the Northside Train Sculpture refresh project. If you've driven by Northside, you'll see how great that looks. We had a number of people donate time and materials, including Jason Van Horn, Dave LeCaplan, former Milton art teacher Connie Beer and her husband Jean Beer. And then we had two people that did the actual artwork. One was Connie Beer, former Milton art teacher, and then Susie Belzer, a former Milton student who now teaches art in Whitewell. So thank you to all of them for donating their time, talents, and resources to that project. And then lastly, I just want to, again, thank all of our staff for the work that they've done over the past couple of weeks to get ready for the start of the school year. We're excited that tomorrow is our first day with students. We're looking forward to a really great 23-24 school year. And all of our staff members, whether it's our support staff, our administrative assistants, our teachers, have done a great job getting ready for the start of the school year. Our school nutrition team is gearing up to make sure lunches are ready for students starting tomorrow. Our building and ground staff is always a busy time for them, getting all of our schools ready for the start of the school year. Our admin team has done a great job getting their schools and departments ready. And I want to shine one special spotlight on our HR team. Chris Tukendorf, Chris Watson, Marcy Bergeron, over the last couple of weeks and throughout the summer, meeting individually with every single new employee and getting them ready for the start of the school year. So thanks to all of our folks for everything that they've done to get us ready for the start of the school year.
Excellent. Any other questions for Rich? Very good. Thank you, Rich. 3 is a finance committee report from our previous meeting here, I think about a week ago. Mr. John.
Yeah, I feel like everything I put together, we've already talked about, but since I put it together, I'm gonna say it anyway, so. The Finance Committee met on August 17th. In part, the majority of what we discussed was setting the 23-24 budget. Ross has covered all of that in his presentation during the annual meeting tonight. At the meeting, the committee meeting, we discussed some potential changes that could impact tonight's budget. These changes could come as a result of September enrollment numbers, the amount allocated to Fund 39, what the state legislature does with Act 141, and the low revenue ceiling amounts. If there's any legislative update, I'm sure Ross will go over that now as well. Let's put it together. Dave, Joe, you guys have anything to add, Rich?
No, it's a meeting that's really focused on getting ready for what we already did tonight, so. Yep. Questions from anybody else? Very good, thank you, John. All right, new business. As Julia is making her way up, we have discussion and possible action on the Equitable Services Report. And this here again is a very routine piece of business. So welcome, Julia.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is a required annual report, and it requires us to talk about our services that we provide to our private schools. So we have to provide equitable special education services for parentally placed private school students. So annually, I'll meet with principals from the private schools, and the private schools in our boundaries are Rockford Montessori and Servant Leaders Christian Academy, and we discuss a number of compliance obligations, as well as determining the funds that we have available for the coming school year. So in the memo, I kind of outlined those compliance pieces. So we review our child find obligation. So that obligation happens 3 times a year. It's where we look for, identify, and evaluate students who potentially have a disability. And if those students are evaluated and they're found to be eligible, we talk about the services that they would have in the public school setting versus the services that they would have in the private school. And those look different. And we just kind of outline what those services are. And then we talk through how we determine the funds that we have set aside available for the coming school year. And that's something that's mandated by the state. So they'll give us a number and they'll say, this is how much per student you can use from your federal funds for private school services. And so that allocation came earlier this summer, and we used the child count from October 1st to kind of set aside that dollar amount. So last year, on October 1st, we had 7 students who were being serviced in the private school. So we multiply 7 times that $1,559 $1.72, which is what our allocation was this year, and that's kind of how we get our pot of money to provide services. And then after we kind of go through the funds, we talk about some agreements on what kind of services we're going to be providing. So we can say we would like to provide speech services or reading services or consultative services. We agree upon getting feedback from the private schools as well, what would be the most benefit for the student, and then we sign and move on and start the school year. So the meetings went well. We just kind of had one big meeting with both Rock Prairie and servant leaders, and there was really no questions. They were happy with the services that were provided. In our district, we have a speech staff who is at Harmony, who will deliver the services to Rock Prairie just because of the proximity and her caseload this year. And then if we do have any students who are being served at servant leaders, we will have Donna Singer, who is a speech staff at East, provide those services. I tend to be the LEA rep, but we do have our school building principals who also attend if there's an evaluation meeting, and just to be a nice connection for families if they were not to attend the private school within our boundary. So Sarah Stuckey and Jen Kramer have attended both of those. So again, pretty routine report, but if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Otherwise, we're just looking for a motion.
I have one quick question, Julia. Yeah. Servant Leaders is obviously a little bit newer to the game for us. Do they have a brick and mortar site, or do those services get provided in a home setting?
It's a kind of a hybrid virtual option for families, and I think that's why it was appealing to some families, but they do have a site where Small Wonders used to be across from East, I don't know the name of the building.
Small ones.
Small Wonders. They have a room, a couple rooms up there.
Okay.
I'll move to accept the equitable service report as presented.
Second. Thank you. That motion from Tracy was seconded by Rick for us to accept the equitable service report as presented. Does anyone have any other questions? All in favor of approval signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Julie. All right, and B on new business is discussion and possible approval or adoption of the second reading of Neola policy updates. Those are included, and it's a little different process than you may be used to use, but I don't know, Rick, as chair of policy, do you want to just sort of remind folks what we're doing here with the second reading? And
Yeah, so, at our previous meeting, we had brought forth the first reading of the Neola updates, and, none of the policies listed had any big changes, or additions since then, so instead of going back to the committee, we're just bringing them straight back to the board for possible approval tonight.
I'll move to approve and adopt the policy updates as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Tracy's motion, we'll give John the credit on that one for a second, to approve and adopt the policy updates that are included in board docs. Does anyone have any questions on those? All in favor of approval signify with aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you, that clearly passes. Okay, miscellaneous A is our staffing report, and there's a regular report and an update.
I'll make a motion to approve the staff reports as presented.
I'll second that. Thank you. That was Rick's motion, seconded by Dave, to approve our staffing report. Questions from anyone? All in favor of approval signify with aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you. B is gifts and donations, the content of which is a board document. I see $22,285 from our generous community.
I will move to approve the gifts and donations with gratitude.
I'll second that. Thank you. That was Tracy's motion, seconded by Dave, to receive and accept the gifts and donations with the gratitude of the board and the entire district. Questions from anyone? All in favor of approval, please signify with aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And thank you. Meeting dates, Mr. Dahman.
Just a couple things to highlight on upcoming meeting dates. We have our next regularly scheduled board meeting on Monday, September 11th, here at district office in PDC at 6:30 at our regular time. And we have an HR committee meeting on Wednesday, September 6th. That starts at 9 a.m. That will be in the first floor conference room. And it's not a board or committee meeting, but homecoming week is coming up in the middle of September, and one of the events during homecoming week is this will be the second year of the Wall of Honor ceremony. Board members will be invited to that, so we will host that in case there is a quorum of the board. And that will be at Milton High School on Thursday, September 21st. We'll get more information out to the board on that as we get closer to that date and time.
Rick, do you have an approximate time on that? Morning, afternoon, evening?
Evening. Is that a 6 o'clock start, Jeremy?
One second.
I want to say it's 7, but we're going to confirm that.
Do we know who the honorees are yet?
Good.
7 o'clock.
7.
7 p.m. Thank you.
Excellent. That's it for dates. And I have exhausted my agenda.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that. Dave and Rick, Rick and Dave, I should say. Well, that's a musical group, Rick and Dave. All in favor? Aye. Thank you for coming.
7:58.